think I updated the title already.
Hello. Okay. That is incredible.
I mean, I can barely tell he's not here.
I know. I can hear him laughing right now. That sounds so accurate. All right. I think I'm ready when you are.
I'm trying to match his facial expression. It's actually really hard. All right.
If podcasts had a thumbnail, that would be perfect.
Yes. All right. I'm ready.
All right.
Wait, I'm not.
Donovan, you ready?
Hold on. I think you should include that. I think you should say that. Hold on. Let me bring up the Patreon list so I'm not fumbling for it at the last second because I always do that.
Okay.
Sometimes I remember. Most of the time I don't. Okay.
What's up, Internet? Welcome to the Making Geeks podcast. We are the podcast for makers, families, and geeks.
What's up, man?
What's up, Wes? How you doing today?
Good. How are you, Donovan? This is where you insert the cricket noise in post process.
Yes. Yeah, I should be able to do that.
Cool.
So Donovan's not going to be with us tonight. He had something personal to take care of. So we'll be kind of holding up the ship tonight, just the two of us. I think it's been a while since we've just done one, just the two of us. We haven't done a whole lot. There's been a few, but
a couple,
but not that many. Yeah, there's been a couple.
This is where we get serious, right here.
I get really introspective. Yep. It's also where we get a little bit more equal talking time.
That's true. I can't hide behind a second person anymore.
Yeah, and now we're a little bit more responsible for any dead air too.
That's right.
If you only got the other person to blame for not talking. Yep. I know that we recorded last week, but it feels longer for some reason. I'm not really sure why. Maybe it's a long weekend.
That's true. Yeah, some time dilation or something going on.
Yeah, possibly.
What'd you do over the weekend?
Anything special? It was pretty good. It was my son's birthday. He turned 12. It seems longer ago already, but it was just last week. And we did a couple things. We saw Shang-Chi in the theater, which was really nice to do. Since all this madness has started, it's the third movie that we've seen in the theater. And I know a lot of people are still kind of like skeptical about going back to the theater, being around crowds, but I thought it was perfectly fine. We were in a pretty large theater that probably held 100, 200 people, and there might have been 40 people in the theater. So I'm okay with those odds. I think it's perfectly fine. And out of the three movies I've seen in the theater, which was Peter Rabbit 2, because I have kids, Black Widow, because it's cool, but I think Shang-Chi's very much my favorite, and we'll be doing a spoiler cast at some point once Donovan watches it, and we get that going. So
yes,
and then my son just had a couple friends over the house, and they had a good time, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, pretty good weekend. How about you?
Pretty uneventful. Didn't really do too much. Kids went to the pool. It's one of the last weekends before they close it down.
Is that based the weather for the season?
Yeah, it's usually around Labor Day is when the public pools kind of end their season. Although we just got her signed up for year-round swimming. Typically she does the swim team stuff at the beginning of the summer at our pool when it first opens. And she's been doing that for like 6 years now, actually. A really long time for considering she's only like 10 years old, which is kind of crazy to do something that long.
That's great.
Over half her life, yeah. And having the pandemic for one of the years, the year before this one, did set her back a little bit. But she got frustrated that she was not doing as well as she thought she should. and she used to play piano for a couple years, but she's dropped that. She kind of lost interest. So she doesn't really have a lot of interest in general. Like it's hard to get her like see her motivated about doing something. It's just kind of in her personality, but she seemed really motivated and really interested in doing swimming full time. So we're working out like the logistics of how to get her to and from, that sort of extracurricular activity. And it just so happens that our next door neighbor, who also goes to the same pool as us, their daughter, which is like a year or 2 or 3 years older than Samantha, also signed up, and they're in the same like grouping together as far as like skill level. So we're like alternating like drop off and pick up, which makes it a lot easier with our neighbor. And so she's settling into that. And I also saw Shang-Chi with my family, which I really enjoyed. I thought it was awesome. Well, I look forward to getting into the details of that, which there are some really cool details. Highly recommend it if you're into Marvel stuff, obviously. Even if you're on the fence, I would recommend it. It does a good job of not needing too much prior knowledge to enjoy it, which is good.
I agree.
And the other thing, which will probably lead into our main discussion, last night I dropped $4,000 on something.
What?
Yeah, which I'm trying to think. I don't usually spend that much on anything, like in a single purchase, besides like the house or whatever, That's a little bit different. Yeah, I ordered a Glowforge Plus last night.
I hope you used my referral code.
I didn't. I'm
Did
sorry.
you use somebody's referral code?
I did.
Okay, I could probably guess whose you used.
Yeah,
it's okay.
Yeah, sorry. I thought about it and I was torn, but it's kind of their fault too.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah,
Everybody
I thought
down
long
eventually.
About, yeah, so I've got a couple different reasons for it.
I am a little surprised.
Well, I don't like to be predictable, for one thing. I don't like to be pigeonholed or predictable. So I like to keep things fresh, keep people guessing, right?
Still, though.
Yeah.
You're deflecting there.
A couple of other things, so my K40 is working fine, but I've got a couple things that I want to increase throughput a little bit, which I could obviously get another K40. But I also wanted to include Samantha and possibly Grant or my wife in on more of the making with the laser. I know that's got a lower barrier to entry.
Yeah, that's why I have one too in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I understand that point.
The other reason is kind of weird, and it might be specific because of the content creator thing, but Amazon has, over the last year and a half or so, they reduced their affiliate rates for affiliates. So if you list something in your video, you get a smaller cut than what you used to, and that also applies for the K40. So I'm getting probably half of what I used to for K40 referrals, which I got a good number of them since I got into this unit. And the Glowforge referral program is a lot better. And what you just recently said about some of your dealings with that referral program was probably a big motivator for me to get it, honestly. And not so much where I'm going to be looking for things to praise the system. I'm still going to be kind of harsh on it as far as review videos or comparing it side by side to a K40, or because it's the middle tier one, I want to actually do maybe a speed test against maybe George from Technically Woodworking. He's a local maker who has a Glowforge, or Nicole and Turi from When Geeks Craft. They have a Glowforge, but they have the basic model. So I'd like to do a side by side speed test maybe to compare them, or the pros and cons of the K40 versus the Glowforge, which there are some actually, as you well know. I think that'd be, not that that's a unique video proposition. There are several other people doing similar things, but I like to think I can maybe put a different spin on it. I can see the thumbnail now. I think it'll say Glowforge, and then maybe in the parentheses or something, it'll say Fisher Price, my first laser, or something along those lines. Because I think it's sort of a good intro. It's an expensive but introductory like laser to get into it, where you don't really need to know about all the stuff under the hood and why it works or how it works as much as the K40. Like a gnat could fly in there and like disrupt the laser, like mirror alignment, you know. So
Yeah, I'm all for throwing shade at Glowforge.
yeah,
They deserve it, but they made a decent product, but it definitely has its issues, and
yeah,
I look forward to seeing your take on it, because quite a few people have seen mine and seem like they kind of side with what I'm saying. But I think the bigger challenge with the issue like with something like a Glowforge or a larger format laser is you don't really have the opportunity to test a lot of different lasers.
right.
You can't go to Best Buy and see them side by side,
Yeah,
and to test is like a $3,000 commitment, and if you don't like it, the hassle of returning it is why most people don't ever
mm,
look at anything else,
sure.
and it's problematic. I'm trying to reach out to a different company because I would like to do a side by side comparison.
Yeah.
um yeah, well, we'll see what happens.
And the one thing that still like irks me to this day, and they keep leaning on it to the point where I was really hesitant to buy the thing just because of this one marketing thing they keep hammering home. They keep calling it a 3D laser printer, and that drives
Yes.
me up the wall. And they
Yep.
actually like tongue in cheek quoted Turi as calling it a 3D laser printer, like in some of the recent like media posts. I don't remember the exact phrasing, but they made it look like he said that even though he didn't, which was kind of shady, I think. But anyways, yeah, I'm never gonna call it that. So Glowforge, if you're listening, don't expect that. I'll make fun of it somehow, if anything, because that drives me crazy. I think it does a disservice to that technology and honestly like 3D printing too, because it's sort of trying to pull the nomenclature I think from the popular thing of 3D printing and throwing the word laser in there. I think it can confuse people that don't know any better, or I think
Yeah,
it's
I'm in
bad.
agreement. Yeah, I I was making fun of it to somebody. I forgot who it was, but simply saying that I think a lot of the, like you said, the nomenclature, like the marketing itself, is for people that may not have a really strong technical background
Mm-hmm.
and trying to use words that seem a little bit more familiar, even though it's not an accurate description of the product.
Mm-hmm.
It's a laser cutter and laser engraver.
Yeah, and
Although
they call the verb printing as well. Oh, he printed
yeah,
this. I'm like, no, that's not
that
right.
that bugs me. That bugs me. I know, because printing is a very specific
It's additive.
idea in my mind. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's additive. I heard something from somebody recently that um, part of the issues with Glowforge is that it was not originally, at least when it was being designed, was not intended to cut, only to engrave, and that's
I could see that
partially some
maybe.
of the reasons for
Yeah.
why it was designed the way it was.
Hmm.
But I don't know.
Yeah. Interesting. So
So
we'll see.
Wes, Team Glowforge, I am shocked.
Yeah, we'll
I
see.
thought you were going to go with like the larger version of the K40 style or
I
something
wanted to
else,
honestly, but the
or
thing that made
fiber.
me well, the thing that made me not go that way, and I've had that the bigger format of like the K40 equivalent, the Chinese laser, in my cart several times from Amazon, but they changed the referral stuff, and it's just not worth me doing it. If my goal is unfortunately to make money off of my videos in some manner, it's something I
Yeah.
got used to. It's something that I don't like abuse it or anything like that, or try to like give false impressions just for clicks or for transactions or whatever. But it does impact like my decision making, unfortunately. Um,
I got kicked out of the Amazon affiliate program 3 times just because I'm not able
yeah,
with with my audience. I don't have the same engagement rate for certain things. So I'm not able to generate the same sort of incomes, and you
yeah,
have to generate a certain amount every month
hmm
in order to stay in the program. And I keep getting kicked out.
yeah.
I need my people
It,
to buy more things.
I would say it's helpful to do several instructables and include them in there, because I think those
I
seem to
haven't
stay
done one in
more
a long
current
time.
than like a YouTube video. They seem to like get they don't drop off as substantially, I think, and I don't know. I consistently see something from that. But yeah, I'm just trying to diversify all my income streams. I've also picked up a couple little side gigs in the last week. So apparently this is a thing, and if there's any sports ball fans out there, specifically football, American football, apparently there's a thing that fans do when they go to a live football game. They'll wear like a giant replica of a NFL Super Bowl ring on their head, like a hat, apparently, like the hardcore fans. And apparently there's a guy in the foam crafting community who's kind of up and coming maker who reached out on a page I'm on, and he's like, "Hey, I'm running into some headaches with making this giant ring thing. It's got all this text. It's really elaborate. I'm not looking forward to doing it. I just needed an event. Like it's part of this whole project he's doing for a guy he got a commission, and he just wanted to say like how sucky it is, or even though he's got a commission, it's just like, oh, I got so much work in front of me. Makers understand, what's going on, and I said, well, why don't you just like get the letters laser cut? And he comes back with, oh, they say that the foam doesn't work well with lasers, da da da. And so I was like, oh, that's a challenge right there. So I went over to my laser and cut out like part of the lettering and like took a little video and instantly came back and posted it. Kind of like a tongue-in-cheek, kind of like, what's up kind of post. And he just got like flabbergasted, I think. And so I ended up picking up a job of helping him cut the lettering out for the like all these different sides. It's like the one from the Buccaneers ring, the more recent one. I don't watch sports, so I just barely know about this stuff. So I've been laser cutting EVA foam of different thicknesses and stuff. So
I was going to ask you what type of foam.
Yeah.
So EVA foam cuts pretty good on the laser.
Yeah, I researched it first because anything weird I don't like.
I know.
Lasering.
I have a spreadsheet of all that.
Yeah, and they said that it's not. It's got the V in it for the vinyl, but it's not the vinyl part that makes it hazardous. It's the C part in PVC, so the chlorine, to make the chlorine gas, which is the noxious, bad thing you don't ever want to cut. And so they said it's good. It's fine. It cuts really cleanly. You just have to watch it for flare-ups and stuff. So you have to make sure you have air assist on your laser and you watch it like a hawk. Like don't even go to the bathroom while it's going because it can flame up. And I have had no problems. I cut out like several sheets worth of letters so far. You can see like lots of different little tests and stuff. And so besides it stinking really bad, it's kind of fun. It's a new material, cuts really smooth, really clean, and hopefully I can help out another maker.
Try that.
So, yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, I think the option of cutting foam is really good because sometimes, wood is too brittle or you can't really cut that thick.
Mm-hmm.
Cardboard is cardboard.
Yeah.
But foam is like a nice kind of in between, especially because like the flexibility of it. I'm gonna have to.
The one thing I would say
projects
is that the kerf of the cut is wider than your normal material because it has a tendency to shrink a little bit with the laser blast.
Yeah,
so there's
I messed around with that before.
Yeah. You can't go too small. You'll lose a lot of like the detail will just like shrink upon itself and it like makes a little wormhole and sucks the letters away. Basically, if it gets too small.
That in and of itself would actually be a fantastic laser video.
Yeah.
That's actually one I've never seen anybody do on the laser.
And I think it seals the edges too. They're like
it usually does.
Yeah.
When I was messing with EVA foam when I made the stupid Pokeball thing years ago, I learned a lot about that because I was using a heat gun.
Yeah.
On the EVA foam, forming it and stuff, and any cut or gap would widen, but the edges would feel kind of almost a little bit shiny after it's been heated. It's really kind of interesting.
Yeah. So that's what I've been up to in a long answer for a short question. Lots of different little things, but it's a lot of it.
Kind of leads into a little bit of what you said we were going to talk about for today. So
yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. So the idea, if I kind of heard correctly, was looking at projects that we've been wanting to do that we've been either procrastinating on or been intimidated by, and talking it through with each other, maybe like motivating each other a little bit to kind of get it done, hopefully before the end of the year.
That'd be a good
I
goal.
know
Yeah.
that, yeah, yeah. Just because you know, whenever you set a goal, you kind of need that time frame. Otherwise, there's really no pressure to get it done. You know, I have like two or three. Um, I think the first one would be the All Queens chess set that I've
Mm-hmm.
probably talked about for 6 months at this point.
Yep.
And what's funny is I already have all the pieces 3D printed. You know, I must have spent, you know, 10 hours modeling the custom piece and then printing it. I have them already printed. So the last kind of hurdle to get over is really the design of the box. I'm gonna laser cut part of it, and I'm probably gonna laser cut the squares, and some of the squares are gonna have an engraving on it, the symbol I made for the game. But it's actually the construction of the box, and not the skill of the construction, but just deciding on a design that I've been kind of hung up on. Because on one end, I simply just want to get it done, just like a lot of my videos. So make a box and make it look nice, and that's it. But then there's another part of my brain that says, you know, why not make it look really cool and really nice and kind of like, you know, do it up.
Yeah.
And I'm one of the few times I'm really indecisive about something on a project. That usually doesn't happen, but this one, for whatever reason, is causing that.
Is there like one side of you that kind of wants it to be almost like an heirloomy kind of piece? Maybe not that fancy, but something that you would want to keep and like, you know, some,
The scale of the box is going to be
yeah.
fairly small. It's probably a little bit less than half. Actually, probably a little bit more than a quarter. Let's say like a third of a regular chess board, size
Mm-hmm.
wise.
Okay.
To create something heirloom at a smaller scale, I'm not really that interested in that.
Mm.
But I think I do want to make it look a little bit more ornate. And it's probably going to be some pattern cutting on the laser, and I'm going to probably layer 1/8 pieces of 1/8 inch pieces of plywood to create this almost this lattice lace type look around the edges, like black lattice, and then probably purple underneath, because those are the two colors I'm kind of messing with in terms of Maleficent, and then just figuring out the corners and the construction and how it's gonna the basically the joinery
Right.
for it. Yeah.
So, are you familiar with the YouTube channel from Michael Alm, ALM?
ALM? No.
So apparently he recently came out with a couple videos. Actually, yeah, one's a month long, one's a month ago. There's another one that's 2 years old about coming up with like patterns for the edges of plywood and actually using that as like a design element. So he's got a
Oh,
video
okay.
that came out a month ago called "Making Edge Grain Pattern Plywood," and he actually has like little diamonds and stuff in the edge grain. And you
You know
should
what?
check that out.
I didn't know his name, but I've seen
The th-
I know exactly what you're talking about.
yeah, maybe there's something there. Yeah, um, I didn't watch the video
Oh,
yet,
you know
but I've
what?
been meaning to.
I have seen this guy because he did a build with bourbon
Mm-hmm.
moth woodworking, whatever the guy's name is. Yeah, I've seen the thumbnails. Yeah. You're throwing me for another loop, showing me that.
Yeah, always.
Yeah. That
So
would be pretty cool.
that would be
Probably not
awesome.
for this project.
Yeah.
That's actually a lot nicer
Mm-hmm.
than I'm looking at for this one specific project. But I'm definitely gonna keep that in my back pocket for something else that I'm looking at doing.
Uh,
So it's something that's been holding you up.
yeah. One is something that longtime listeners have been able to track its inexistent progress or non-existent progress since I first mentioned it. I want to finally do welding. I have a welder, Harbor Freight welder, flux core, that's been sitting over there in the corner of my house that taunts me every day. And really, it does more of a job being like an end table at this point, or like a hallway decorative thing, because I just set crap on the box, right? It's like a storage location. And actually, I can't use the weather as the excuse of why I'm not going out there and using it, because my typical excuse is, it's too hot, because we had like a pretty hot summer. I just need to actually do it. What's it called? Workbench Con 2 years ago now. I welded for the first time, and then the pandemic happened, and I honestly forgot, or everyone else forgot about everything important in life, or it shuffled priorities around or whatever when all this stuff happened, and it's just something that I just didn't think about until recently when I happened to notice a box that's been there for several years. Um, I want to actually uh, challenge myself to actually do it. The part of the intimidation is it seems like a more dangerous tool, not just for myself, but onlookers and things that I can't really have control over. And it's one of those things where it seems like I don't know what I don't know, so that would be more hazardous if I make a mistake or something. But I'm watching a lot of videos and doing all these things that I think that's just another excuse I keep throwing up, which is the weird phrasing that I just realized about throwing up. Um, but yeah, I just need to do it and keep the dog in the house if I need to. If I'm afraid it's going to blind Loki as it comes around a corner when I'm like welding an arc or something. I don't know. It's just something it keeps coming up, and I need to do it. So I'd love to throw that in the ring of something I would like to get to before the end of the year, just to say I did it.
So there's two things like regarding that. So one is the skill and the experience of learning how to weld, whether you're teaching yourself or having somebody kind of instruct you a little bit. And I think it's like as a maker, I think it's one of those skills that paths eventually will lead you towards in most cases, whether it's something that you do primarily or just knowing how to do it. Is there a project that you have in mind that is going to require that skill? Because that could also be like a bigger impetus in getting that going.
I would like to say that there is, but there really isn't.
Oh, okay.
It's almost one of those things where I don't even consider thinking in that material because I've had no way to execute that. So I've never thought about it. But I'm sure it's just like getting a 3D printer when the first time. I had no concept of what I could 3D print until I got it. I'm like, oh, it like unlocks that side of the brain. Like, oh, I could do this, or I could do that. And you start realizing so many use cases.
Maybe there's that, but it's also very different though, because you can take something that's pre-designed and just hit print on a 3D printer, whereas the welder, you really are kind of
fabricating, yeah,
stitching together building blocks to create something.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe making like I don't even know, a go-kart, or just welding a cube, a 3D cube or something. Just an excuse to do it. I don't really have a project in mind, off the top of my head.
Yeah, in and of itself, that might help.
Yeah.
Weld a steel cube question block.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah, Wesley Treat had a couple of videos that he's done over the last year or two. He did one. It was like this lamp that looked like a spider. Did you see that?
Oh yeah, I saw that. That was fantastic.
Incredible. Like, that's probably one of my favorite projects he's done. Where it had like the dangling cord from the ceiling, and it had like a big like amber colored globe kind of light bulb hanging from it. And if you think that is like the abdomen of the spider, and he sculpted the rest of the spider around that like it was hanging from the line from the ceiling, like that's part of his web. It was super cool. And he put it on eBay, and I really wanted to bid on it. Actually did bid on it a little bit just to bump the numbers up. I knew I was going to be outbid pretty quickly, and it got out of my price range, but I wanted that thing. So maybe even just to replicate that, because it's a lot of like simple cuts, and then you just kind of like jig things together and just put the little legs together and whatnot. It seems like it might be a good test bed to kind of figure out how to do it. And it would look cool.
He might even be a good person to talk to for some ideas.
Yeah.
First time welder, you have any ideas, or what I should do? Other than just like sticking two pieces of metal together.
Yeah.
An actual so-called project that would actually require. And then Nicole in the chat says she has some projects for you.
Oh, dang it! All right.
Yeah, if you put it out there long enough, somebody will kind of speak up and say, "Yeah, I have some things you can do."
Yeah. Yeah. Now that travel has opened up, but it seems like it's kind of closing in some regards too. But it's over the last couple of years, I've often thought it would be really cool to have like a little mini series of me traveling to different people's shops and like learning like a cool practice or cool trade or cool skill that it's almost like skill collecting like on the go with other maker buddy kind of cameos. And I think it would be really neat to show up at either like Mancrafting's, you know, cave or like Wesley Treat or some other people that do a lot of welding. I think that'd be cool to work like kind of work hands on and have that as like a little documentary kind of thing.
That would actually be really cool because it would almost be like the maker version of Dirty Jobs.
Yeah.
I think that would be great. Yeah.
Hmm. If I had
So somebody
infinite
that
budget,
probably,
maybe I could do it.
or is a specific Patreon
Yeah.
push for that to fund that that endeavor. So the All Queens chess probably the main one because I've been talking about it for so long, um, and that's not even talking about the pinball project, which is kind of like a unicorn at this point, which is just going to keep getting pushed back and pushed back. Part of that's going to be just based on inspiration too. But I have a lot of practical things that I have to get to, kind of around the house. They're still builds that will probably be videos, but they're also like practical furniture things that needs around the house. And unfortunately, like, and this could be kind of like the excuse part too. I don't have a car to transport, sheets of plywood or anything like that. And my only solution would be to like rent a truck like they have at like Lowe's or Home Depot, which it, isn't that big of a deal. I haven't done it. And that alone and the ability to transport big sheet goods to my house is holding up about 5 or 6 projects. And I don't know if it's the fact that if I go and buy that wood and bring it here, then I need to automatically dedicate that time,
Mm-hmm.
or if it's something psychological like that.
Do they not
But
offer
there's
like item delivery from Lowe's there?
yeah, I think over a certain amount
Mm-hmm.
of a purchase, and I really don't want to spend that much all at once.
Sure.
Although it would be really easy to. And the other thing is like the storage of it. I don't want to store that much at my house anymore. And yeah,
Unless you're going to use it immediately. Yeah.
I mean the bottom line is I'm making excuses for when there is a solution available.
Yep.
But a couple of those projects are like I need to build a bed frame for actually for both of my kids. They need new bed frames, and those are pretty easy builds. At one point, I was trying to hold out for getting it sponsored through Casper or Purple or any of those others. I had sent out a bunch of like emails, kind of like introducing the idea, and all those kind of got, probably tossed in the trash. But at this point, I'm not going to wait for sponsorship and just do them because it's needed.
Yep. Another one that I'll mention just because I think the timing might be perfect. I don't know if I've mentioned it on the podcast, but maybe in passing to several other people for an upcoming project idea. For a long time, I even have parts for it. I just haven't started it. I've been wanting to make a Avengers themed snow globe. Are you familiar with this? Maybe.
I saw a note about it in
Yeah.
some of our
Oh, that's
podcast
right.
notes, but we've never directly talked about that. In fact, I just saw the note about it today.
Oh, that's funny.
It is funny.
Yeah, so I had the list on a shared sheet that he's referring to for the Make 30 and 30, and I just listed a bunch of projects that I wanted to get to, which this is one that I didn't. It's been on my list for a while. I've got like an action figure set in a cabinet that I think will be good. And the idea is basically have a kind of a larger snow globe, like maybe as big as like a basketball size, which I think you can get those plastic globes at like Michael's or Amazon, either glass or plastic, not sure. And I think it would be cool to have Thanos in the background of the thing, with him like snapping, and then having Tony Stark or Iron Man cradling the body of Peter Parker and having Peter Parker's lower half gone and having the particles that swirl around be black or gray particles. And I think that's super creepy, super mean, super awesome. Whether it's in liquid or if it's like a fan swirling them around. I'm not sure which direction to go. I might have to do some experimentation. But I think, and it's kind of a little bit morbid as well. But I think with Spider-Man coming out at the end of the year, and it's also sort of Christmassy because it's a snow globe. It's a little bit of a stretch, but I think it'd be good timing to kind of get that out by the end of the year. I think that'd be funny.
There's one more thing that would be missing if you did not add it.
Do it. What's up?
Music.
Mm.
What song would you have playing?
Do you have one in mind?
No, I don't. I was
Would it
wondering
just be
if
the
you thought
Avengers
about it.
theme? That's too heroic, though. I need something sad.
I was thinking like almost ironic, like "What a Wonderful World."
That'd be good. Hmm. If you guys have any ideas out there of what song I could get to play,
That'd be
that'd
cool.
be cool. Yeah,
Although you get copyright strike in the video,
that's
but
true. That's
it'd be
true.
worth it. Or maybe you could just play like conceptual music in the background. I don't
Yeah.
know.
So the action figure set that I have, I'm pretty sure there's a Thanos in there. There is a Iron Man. There's a Spider Man, but they're all doing like different poses. Ones that don't necessarily coincide to the posing I want to have happen. So I was trying to think of maybe ways I could manipulate it. Either use a heat gun and like
Bend
reform
them.
the orientation. I don't think they're like there's no metal or anything in the inside. They're just kind of resin-ish, like flexible plastic. But maybe I could repose them. Maybe I could cut them like their arms off and like reposition them and use like a modeling clay, like a epoxy sculpt
Yeah,
or
you should
something
be able
like
to do that.
that to
Yeah.
like readhere it. Or
Hmm.
the other stretch is maybe 3D printing some components with my raisin printer. Yeah, my resin 3D printer to print like the parts that maybe aren't in existence. Like because in the figurines, Spider-Man has his full face mask on, but in the scene he has no mask on. So I'd either want to find like a little print of Tom Holland with just his head, so I could like maybe print that out. Maybe I could sculpt it. I think that might be a little difficult at that scale. And then also Iron Man has his helmet on as well, so I'd have to do a Tony Stark or Robert Downey Jr. face recreation, or there's actually a Doctor Strange in there, which is his head shape and stuff is sort of similar to Tony Stark. He's still got the little goatee. I could repaint it a little bit to make it match a little better. Maybe just do a head swap on Doctor Strange with Tony Stark. I'm not sure, so I need to experiment a little bit to see what I could do. But
How big are the figures?
they're like 5 inches tall, maybe.
So this globe would actually be pretty sizable.
Yeah, this may
It's
not
pretty
be
cool
a
though.
this may not be a tangible, feasible idea. I don't know, but I usually start there and work my way
Oh,
backwards.
I think it is.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think it very much is just it's it's an undertaking, but I
Hmm.
think the end result would definitely be worth it. Don't hear anybody else doing this stuff.
Right. Come on. Nicole from When Geeks Craft in the audience, she had a good idea. She said the Avengers theme in a minor key, since minor keys are often somber and stuff. That might be kind of
Mhm.
cool. If only I could play music, that might be something I could do. But maybe I could look something up. Hmm.
You should be able to manipulate that fairly easily and maybe slow down the tempo.
We'll
It's
see.
possible. Yep. I might have to dig into my project list and come up with maybe one or two more. Um, Not a whole lot else is coming to mind right now. I have all these like passing ideas and not real substantial plans.
Hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely would like to help visit. Maybe not this year, but the uh, the pinball thing for you. I thought that would be kind of cool. At some point, the discussion was some sort of collaboration. I don't know how that would like work out nowadays. Like since you actually have a 3D printer now, was before I think the discussion was you didn't have a 3D printer, so I was gonna like print some stuff for you. But now you don't really need me to be part of that. But I think that still would be cool.
Well, I still don't have a resin printer, which
Oh,
would be
that's true.
ideal with some of the pieces. you definitely have more experience on the electronics end too.
Mm-hmm.
So there's always going to be room for collaboration. I think I think for the most part I've been waiting, and although I haven't put a whole lot of time in it, into figuring out two mechanisms because it's the required for the pinball, and that's the launcher, which or plunger sometimes it's called, which isn't that big of a deal. That's pretty easy to figure out. It's a spring you pull back and you let go. But the bigger one I've been trying to figure out is the flippers. And there's two different considerations. One is if it's electronic or like
Mm-hmm.
powered,
Yeah.
then there's some small scale solenoids that you can use to do it. Although in full size pinball machines, there's two solenoids that actually power each flipper. One is a high power solenoid that gives you like the immediate flip really fast, like the power, and then it switches over to a lower power solenoid that holds it in place.
Really?
And it has to do that, otherwise it'll burn out the primary solenoid too quickly. I
Huh.
And because that's a lot to handle for the beginning stage of a project, I'm been thinking about how to do it mechanically with a spring that still gives a pretty good similar type of feel.
Mm-hmm.
And growing up, and even like into the 90s, I don't know if you ever played with the toy pinball machines they used to sell like at the toy stores and stuff. They had these really cheap mechanisms for the flippers. They're simply a spring that you would compress to hit, and they would kind of come back. They really wouldn't hold, and it was more based on force than I think a mechanical. It wasn't a very elegant solution. I want something that's a little bit better.
Right.
But the engineering of that stuff is definitely not my strong suit.
Hmm.
But like I said, I haven't put a whole lot of work into solving it yet either.
So we're gonna
I
try.
have
Good.
good, good.
I was gonna say we're gonna try to set the goal of by the end of the year. Maybe check in a little bit from time to time, see if we can
Yeah, at least
jumpstart it.
at least for the mechanism of the flipper,
Oh, okay.
because everything else is simply just a flat board with obstacles on it or whatever for right now. But I think having even a mock-up of a mechanical working flipper um, is reasonable
Do you
by the end of the year.
do you want to do that one primarily or the Queen's Chest primarily as far as like the first goal?
If I was going to pick one,
Yeah.
probably Queen's Chess.
Okay.
I like the idea of crossing things off my list
Yeah.
um, before I
That one's a
take
big
on a
undertaking.
bigger project.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. I'll hold your feet over the fire. Your foot over the fire.
Yeah, my single foot because I won't feel it in the other one. Yeah, and I think the pinball one and the Queen's Chess are probably the biggest challenge. 'Cause I'm sitting here looking at my list, and a lot of them are mainly a matter of motivation, not really a matter of do I know how to do it or can I figure it out. A lot of it is just you know
Yeah.
what do I need here and now? What are the things that which are the ones that are more like geeking out, and then others that are almost like a requirement for the home.
Sure.
So I like these different categories of builds.
I like it. I think there's something we could do there. I'm tired of mentioning the damn welder on here in a negative light. I don't actually want to do something with it. So either I'll electrocute myself, I'll burn myself, or I'll blind myself, or I'll figure out how to do it by the end of the year. Or maybe all
Which kind
together.
of
I mean, they're not
is
mutually
it a
exclusive.
MIG or a TIG? What kind of
It's
welder does it stick?
see, it shows how little I know about welders. It's a flux core. Don't know what kind that is.
Okay,
Honestly, someone out there
I,
is
I
like
can I can picture it,
freaking
but
out,
I
like, how do you not know this?
I'm throwing words out there without
Yes.
even really knowing what they all mean. Wes is looking it up right now.
I'm looking it
That's
up
why we have
horribly because I don't know
the
what the hell
silence.
I'm looking at. I believe it's a MiG, is what type it is. But correct me if I'm wrong out there. Send me a angrily worded email if I have offended your welding sensibilities out there, which
You can send it to Donovan at Once Upon a
that's
Workbench.
true. That's true. He's not telling me that that's wrong or anything. So
You know, it might be fun to do at some point, although I might just do this for myself, is putting up 3 or 4 projects and having people vote on which one I
oh
should
yeah,
do next.
yeah, that's a good idea.
It'll be a very carefully curated list, but that might be fun.
That's not a bad idea. Maybe to start the next year off, maybe I could do that. Hmm. You've been geeking out about anything lately? Not that there's anything cool coming out in the near future that you're hopefully excited about.
Now, there's this weird film called Matrix Resurrections that just
Hmm.
dropped a trailer today.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's such a weird franchise. I mean, who knows? But of course, in reality, for anybody that's listened to the show for any period of time knows that I'm a little bit cuckoo for the Matrix. Um, this one included. Yeah, so Matrix Resurrection trailer dropped early this morning. At this point, I think I've watched it about 15 times, and I have a little bit of an idea what's going on, but nothing's definite.
Hmm.
I kind of want to wait till after the movie to get philosophical about it because the the whole driving force behind the Matrix, other than like the surface storyline, is this philosophical slant that they all have. And I once I heard that they were making a fourth one, I already had like 30 different questions.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest questions was, okay, how are they going to deal with the passage of time in terms of technology? Because when the first Matrix came out, smartphones did not exist, at least not like they do now. I think Blackberries were out, but that was kind of the extent of what a smartphone looked like. And in the film, they held cell phones, but they were really the old basic cell phones or landlines. And there's so much that's changed since 1999 in terms of technology. So I was wondering how that they were doing that. And the for anybody that's seen the films, not even like them, but seen them, you notice that the films are produced with a very interesting production quality. Where when you're in the real world, it has this weird green tint. Actually, no, I take that back. When you're in the real world, it has a weird blue tint, and when you're in the Matrix, it has a weird green tint. But that's not entirely present in the trailer. Although there is something present that I don't know if anybody's picked up on yet. Although I haven't watched any reaction videos or stuff like that, where there are a lot of frames. They have the kind of like a greenish or orangish and blue in the same. So you have this fight of a warm versus cool in a lot of the frames. And given the mentality that a lot of those films are produced with, I don't think that's by accident. So I'm kind of hoping that plays into some of the purpose and storyline. But we'll see. I'm definitely excited for it, and it's going to be strange. It's going to be different, and I'm all for it.
It does look interesting. Um, I remember distinctly when I saw the second one in the theater. It was the first like true sense of disappointment after watching a film because I had such high hopes for after the first one. It was so incredible, and I was so excited, and I was just like, well, maybe they'll, it was I think it was the same year I believe that the third one came out. It was just like later on, like 6 months later or
Yeah, it
something.
was like 4 or 6 months apart. Yeah,
Yeah, and I was like, oh well, they probably they're just setting something up, and they're gonna pay it off in the next one hopefully. And then I watched the third one, and like after it's done, I was just like sitting there like, what the heck? I, I like some elements of it, but there were several other parts that I was just not even from a philosophical point. Like I got a lot of the like religious undertones and things that they were doing, but just I don't know. There's some parts that I'm just like, why did they do that? Like the little dance like sequence. It's been like ages since I've seen the second and third one. I don't even know if I've seen them more than once, to be honest with you. But I remember like there was like a rave thing that went on far too long or something, and I
yep, there was.
really hated any part of that. And there's certain parts that I was just like, it felt like it was like squandering the potential of what the first one set up. Just that feeling that a property could do that to itself, and that was the first realization that that could happen to me. Because I think around the same time, Lord of the Rings were out or in the process of coming out, right? Because it was like
Yes.
I've
Within that time was
yeah,
the Star Wars prequels,
right,
Matrix, and Lord of the Rings
right.
within like three years of each other.
And I had somewhat disappointment for the Star Wars stuff, but I wasn't. That's a different topic for a different day. But I just remember vividly like being underwhelmed and how disappointed I was for them. I would like to revisit them to see, if maybe there's stuff I missed. And Nicole from When Geeks Craft again is in the comments. She said that she needs to have a Matrix movie night because she's never seen any of them. So maybe that's a good opportunity. And just coincidentally, last weekend, I actually chose to watch The Matrix for the first time in like at least a decade. And I watched it with some other friends and stuff, and Catherine, and really enjoyed it. I forgot a lot of little elements of it, but yeah, I'm excited. I want to be excited. I don't want the other disappointment to taint this experience before it even happens. And I'm gonna think positive thoughts because it did look cool. It did look cool, and maybe they just found a new DLC pack. Like maybe they got new skins for some of the characters. You know, maybe they're
The
taking
John
that.
Wick skin.
Yeah, exactly. I'm curious to see if there's a dog. Whether or not, that's the motivation.
Everybody's curious.
Yeah, yeah. With Morpheus being a different character, that's going to be a little weird because I really like that character, as I know a lot of people did. But
I
me,
think there's
yeah,
a legitimate reason for it too.
okay.
Um,
I'm sure they would have to
but
write that in to make it make sense too. So
well,
they're not just going to not talk about it.
I can say this really quick though, is that years ago there was an online Matrix game called Enter the Matrix,
Yep, I'm aware of this. This theory.
and
Go ahead.
the the online game itself was said to be canon, and in that game Morpheus gets killed. Now, if the Wachowskis are sticking to their guns and saying that that is canon, then Morpheus was actually killed. There is a brief 2 or 3 frames of one of the previews that shows Morpheus being, how would I put it? It it looks like he's being, picture the ashes and stuff from the snap in the Avengers. It's that kind of look, but being circling, forming him or something.
Hmm.
So there's a potential link of him being recreated in the Matrix or something like that for whatever purpose he has. It's still speculation at this point, but there's a little bit of precedence for it.
Yeah.
Is kind of how I can put it.
Now, I don't. Again, I hadn't seen the third one in such a long time. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Wasn't there an element in that storyline where like it was revealed that this was not the first time that this has happened?
Yep.
Wasn't that like a
Yeah,
major plot point that the architect or whoever it was?
huge
Yeah.
plot point. This has happened over and over and over again.
Right. So this is just the continuation of attempts, perhaps. That's why
It appears that way.
Yeah.
It looks like the characters have aged
Mm-hmm.
and technology has furthered. But I don't know if time is not what it seems in the
Sure.
Matrix, because I don't know exactly what scenes are in the Matrix. Actually, I would assume all
Do,
of them are, but
do we know if
it's.
Hugo Weaving is coming back?
I don't believe so. I don't believe he or
Yeah.
Lawrence Fishburne are coming back, which is a shame, and I think a lot of people are already disappointed with that, unless they have a trick up their sleeve that they don't want us to know about.
Right.
So it's so early, and I want to speculate, but at the same time, I think it's kind of dumb to speculate. Um, the the movies and the expectations and the intention of the director are kind of hard to predict at this point.
Yeah.
I will say really quick, because you were talking about the sequels.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there are a lot of reasons to not like the sequels, and it's be really hard to convince anybody otherwise. Although I could make a pretty good argument for both of them,
Okay.
but yeah, they are what they are. Just think of them as popcorn movies and don't look too deep in some of the convolutedness of what they chose to do in the second and third film. Although there's some allegorical stuff that was intentional that most people did not know when the movies were created. That maybe I'll talk about at another time.
Yeah.
And
I like
knowing that it was created with that different intention, kind of forces you to watch the films in a different way, and unfortunately might make some people not like the films anymore. But like I said, conversation for another time.
Yeah, look forward to that one. The
So
one,
what do you?
yeah,
Yeah, I was gonna say, what are you geeking out about?
I actually meant to bring this up last week, and I remembered it as soon as we got off the air. Was the Spider-Man Far From Home trailer?
Oh, that's right. We haven't
Um,
talked about it.
Super looking forward to that one. Um, like I was like every part of that trailer, I was super stoked about, especially like everyone else when you see the mechanical arms come up and the Hello Peter moment with Doc Ock. It was pretty awesome. The guy got chills. It was super cool. And then that feeling was quickly overwritten or subsided by my wife response, and she goes, "Who is that?" Or "Who am I supposed to know who that is?" Or something like that. I'm just like, "Oh no, no, you cut my heart." I had a similar feeling when we watched Shang-Chi, because at the end of the whole thing, she leans over, she's like, "Is there after credits? Is there after credit scene?" And I'm just like, "This is like the 23rd movie. Have you not noticed a pattern so far?" Like I was kind of a little bit mean, but I kind of thought it was a little bit justified. Like, come on, of course there's going to be. Ugh. Anyways, that's why I have you guys to talk to. I can revel in the geekness with you guys, and I can get that sense of satisfaction. Um, I super hope that the other Peter Parkers are going to be in it, like the theories are saying. I think that would be really cool.
There's been so many
So
leaks
many, yeah,
that I don't think there's a whole lot of. I probably shouldn't say there's not a whole lot of surprises, but it kind of feels that way at this point.
yeah,
Are you generally a Spider-Man fan?
yeah. I would say so. It's not like I like read a lot of the comics or anything, but Spider-Man and Superman were my go-tos as kids. I like the animated series, and
As a kid, I really liked Spider-Man, but as an adult, I think I'm kind of indifferent. I mean, I don't get me wrong,
mm-hmm,
I like the new movies. I think they're really good, but I don't know if it's an age thing too, because
right.
Spider-Man is inherently a late teen, maybe early 20s, and I'm not. So it's the connection isn't quite there the same way anymore. I think I appreciate and connect more with Tony Stark than I do with Peter Parker at this point in time.
Yeah, I could see that. Mm. Yeah, I don't know. I'm super looking forward to it. I think no matter what, like I've enjoyed the last two more than I thought I would, and the Enter the Spider Verse was one of my favorite Spider-Man superhero things to exist.
It was
Honestly,
fantastic.
absolutely love that. So I'm looking forward to that sequel, but that's another discussion. But basically, any Spider-Man stuff, I'll eat up as long as it's decent. Like I didn't love all the other sequels for different reasons, as most people didn't. But yeah, I mean they're pulling in Electro and all these other, like there's like sand in the trailer, so maybe Sandman's in it.
I'm
I
not
don't
sure if
know.
I noticed that.
Yeah.
There's rumors about the Sinister Six
Mm-hmm.
being present.
Yep.
I will say this one thing, and I know this is turning out to be like a longer geek out session than we probably originally intended, but I think it's worth it.
It's warranted.
And maybe this next part is a different episode altogether as well. But I feel with a lot of superhero movies, and Spider-Man in particular, because there's been so many Spider-Man movies in and of itself to begin with, that I feel like I'm constantly waiting for the storyline to finally get going. And what I mean
Yeah.
is,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean this holistically for the franchise, like, okay, we got the origin again. Okay, he's got his first battle. Okay, the second one. And wanting to finally see, I guess, the Spider-Verse type thing or the multiverse type thing, because it was teased in the cartoons so much at one point. Um, and I had this distinct memory of like a woman's voice. Was it Madam? No, not Madam. Almost like, how to explain it? Like a mentor to Peter that seemed a little bit more spiritual in a way. And I don't know if anybody knows what I'm talking about, but there was something he was tapped into to something where he would hear advice from somebody or somebody guiding him at some point. It wasn't like Black Cat. It was something else. I'd have to look it up. But I keep waiting for like what I would consider like the bigger storyline. Um, and Spider-Man kind of being like a veteran instead of just being someone who's still learning.
I can see that.
And I know it's really hard to get to the movies, but yeah.
That was one thing I liked about the recent iteration with Tom Holland is that they actually didn't have a origin story with him. You don't know how.
I think a lot of people appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah. And he didn't mention Uncle Ben at all, and that sort of thing.
But which is weird in some ways.
Yeah.
But I guess with the Aunt May is enough of a family to ground him.
Yeah.
Although there wasn't ever any mention of his parents, were there?
Nope, not in these. No. Although in the latest, well, Uncle Ben has been mentioned now. That's all I'll say. I don't want to spoil anything. He's been mentioned in an official canon MCU property. But I'm not going to say what in case someone wants to be surprised.
I'll have you tell me later.
As of yesterday, so you can kind of figure that out.
Okay.
But besides that, yeah, a lot of stuff to geek out about. Including our patrons over at patreon.com/makegeeks. We geek out about them all the time. We like to talk to them on our Discord server and play games with them on Minecraft and Valheim and other servers as well as one of the perks that we offer. I love sending maker stickers out to people that are in that tier. I don't know if you guys knew that I did that. Every couple months I'll send a package or a little envelope full of different maker related stickers out. That's something cool to get in the mail to keep it interesting, especially in these times where you don't have the events that's so easy to exchange maker stickers like at maker fairs and whatnot. I like to think that that's appreciated just as much as we appreciate our top patrons, Square Splinter, Clinton, and Jordan. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for your support.
And if you'd like to see what we're up to,
did Sean just freeze in the outro? I think he froze. All right. In the case that Sean will not be coming back, if you would like to keep up with some of the things that we're doing on an individual basis, you can check out Sean over at Geek Builders. You can check out Donovan at Once Upon a Workbench. And you can check out my work, Geeksmithing, is where you'll find all that. I'd like to take a moment to thank all of our people out there in YouTube land for watching the live stream. We appreciate you guys. It's fun to banter back and forth with you guys. And yeah, we'll just call this one good. From all of me to all of me, I hope you guys have a fantastic week. See you later.